Be able to hear you? Yes, right. We're hearing you now, right? Very exciting program on today's, folks. We'll be looking at Intercol 2025, right? As per usual, we do our preview, and then we do our review. We also do it for the Carifta Games as well. But this time it was Intercol 2025, also known as it's the Intersecondary School Athletics Championship, also known as Intercol. Very exciting 3 days of track and field. As anticipated, the 20 plus secondary schools gave all their best. It was so happy and intriguing to see some of the quote unquote lesser known schools scoring points, right? And even some of the new schools, St. George's Institute, for example, right? And it wasn't, I would say, a total domination by the well known schools. It wasn't a total domination, right? There were a couple upsets, as a matter of fact, right? Nevertheless, we'll be speaking with the coaches. We'll have the coaches of the Victoria schools. They will be coming in and between. And we also hoping to have the director of the beat. Like today is a very, busy day for some of those folks because the Carifta Games team actually going in. I think they should be going into a camp from today or the next few days, but something like that, right? So we'll have the coach of the Grenada Boys Secondary School, one of the coaches of the St. David's Catholic Secondary School, and also we'll have a young sensation. I think I put his name up already, but we'll introduce him later on. We'll have him on sooner or later. But let me welcome my co-host from Toronto, Canada, Mr. Ruden Sylvan. Good afternoon to you, Ruden.
Hey, good afternoon, Michael. Welcome back to New York. I know it's
Yes.
not it's certainly not not where you're coming out from. However, it's good to be back home. It's always good to be home. So certainly back home you are safe and all is well. So certainly good to have you back home, and thank you for having me on. Certainly, as you said, it was a 3 days to remember, just 3 days of fun, excitement. You have to, as our former students of the school, and certainly we see the biggest, sporting event in Grenada, the second biggest event in Grenada, after Carnival. So certainly, the fans, the former students, the patrons, everyone, I believe, had a wonderful time. So it was good. And there was a lot of success, like I said, a lot of new schools. We see a lot of new things happening. A lot of upcoming athletes that certainly we're going to keep our eyes on. But I'm looking forward to see what the future holds for Grenada.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much, Rudian. And no doubt looking forward to a very exciting program. Let me also welcome on our program today Mr. Nicholas Benjamin, the coach of the GBSS. A pleasant good afternoon to you, Mr. Benjamin.
Pleasant good afternoon. Pleasant good afternoon.
Certainly, Mr. Benjamin, you look a lot sober today than
A little day of rest. A little day of rest. So I got.
And it's
certainly, yeah. So let me congratulate you before Michael come on. Congratulations on a
Thank
certainly
you.
successful and well thought. And when you guys decide to have your meet early, I said to Michael, let's wait and see. And it pays off. So certainly congratulations to
was
that.
well,
Now, like again, there's the ups, there's the downs, there's the in between, and you might, yeah, you win, but you might say, you know what, it didn't pay off. Oh, yes, it paid off. So there is the balance in there. So certainly.
yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
So thank you, Mr. Benjamin, for being on our program. And just to let folks know, we also have the young sensation, Mr. Kaj Stephen. Good afternoon to you, Mr. Stephen. Well, Stephen, Kaj, good afternoon
Good
to you.
afternoon, sir.
Right. And it's a pleasure having you. How are things? Things are okay?
Yes, so far so good.
Okay. Just for clarification, what's on your t-shirt? I am blessed. Is it that what it says? I
Yes,
am blessed.
yes, I am
Well,
a blessing.
Well, you are truly blessed. You are truly blessed. Yeah. So thank you very much for having. So and hopefully we'll have on sooner or later. We should have one of the coaches from the St. David's Catholic Secondary School, and we haven't heard well anything for the contrary from the meet director, but we will be speaking to these gentlemen, and we hope to have a very encouraging and fruitful discussion. And of course, from our viewers and listeners, we'll hear their feedback on their highs and lows, for Intercol 2025. First off, let me start off with Mr. Benjamin, because Mr. Benjamin, after 2024, you said that we will go back to the drawing board and we will come back. A few weeks ago, probably a few months ago, when we had you on the program, you gave some justification as to why a couple of them, and one of them was that to ensure that you will have and your team will have sufficient time to prepare for the 2025 Intercol Championships. I remember Mr. Carl Andal also came up and he also said that we're looking to see if it pays off. And probably if it pays off, McDonald College may probably try to do something like that. But he was just,
Yeah, I remember.
he was just intimate, that, let's see what will pay off. But do you think it was the right decision, Mr. Benjamin?
Yes, I think going forward we will try to maintain that. It has worked for us. If we realize that we hardly had any injuries on board, usually in your training phase, you'll see athletes getting injured sometimes close to competition where you try to peak them. But that suggestion that we took to have sports in December had eliminated a lot of causes as well as causes of injuries in a form. And if we did have it was minors and we had sufficient time to work on it prior to the interval. The relays, people always complain that the GBSS, we know that too. We make mistakes in the relays and sometimes we lost the whole championship because of one batter falling from an athlete. However, we made sure that we worked on those things and it prevailed for us this round. It prevailed for us. We still, as you see, as I always say too, even the great Americans, the great Jamaicans, they practice as hard and the batter will still fall. And we still got a batter falling in one of the races, the junior relay. And so these are things that we're going to keep on working on. And going forward, yes, I think we will maintain that December sport.
And if there's one thing you have to do over or change or modify, well, I shouldn't say one. What are some of the things you will probably, revisit or probably do differently the next time around?
Maybe minor stuff. We paid a lot of attention on the field events, and you realize that GBSS is not, as they say, we are not a school to just look by. We have the field events and we have track. And going into those meets, you have to make sure that you have a balanced team. And this is what we had. We had sufficient time to work with both field and track. And if we do have to change anything, I probably might try to bring sports even earlier. So we find all the talents and work with them longer. That is the only thing I probably might change. But I think we are okay with the plan that we had, and going forward, we try our best to maintain that.
In terms of, if you have to highlight some of the performances of your team, and not negating any one or in particular, what are some of the highlights you will identify that you thought deserved that sort of recognition or mention?
Well, the sportsmanship. A lot went on in this 2025 games. A lot went on, and John Public maybe look at it as athletes attacking other athletes. But what I have to tell you is all these guys are friends, and they will send a performance. I would say performance chat to one another. All of them have this athlete chat group, and they'll send their stuff. So when people see these guys writing their stuff and portraying it in the sport beat, all these guys are friends. The John Public took it bad, but on my side, our team, the sportsmanship.
Right, the sportsmanship. There was an event in particular where the athletes, was it the 200? Well, it was. It was Sam and Ian George. Ian George is from St. John's Christian Secondary School, right?
Yes.
And Sam. And from what I gathered, these two athletes began track and field probably at a very tender age.
Yes.
From the St. John's area, and they almost like brothers, cousins, whatever it is like that. And it was so good to see the sort of penmanship at the end, congratulating each other. They pose for photos together. And I'm certain that the late Jimmy Macklin would have been proud, right?
Proud
to
of
see
them.
that because he
Speed zone.
right, and he knew them from since little boys into track into their secondary schools. Tell me about that sort of because I think that's what you were sort of pointing to, where
Yes.
even though they were rivals, they were competitors. Outside of that, some of them are very good friends, whether it's from SAS, McDonald College, GBSS, BBC.
And that's the thing. Viewers saw the footage of Ethan Sam and Ian George, and they explained the story. They explained the story. That's a picture people saw. They explained the story where they both grew up in the athletics from a very young age. But a lot of things that people didn't see is things like Deron John, Kyle Ned, congratulating GBSS athletes and GBSS congratulating both of them when they did their events. So there is a lot of love between the athletes, and the bitter part of it is this is what the supporters don't know. So all in all, I will still say the sportsmanship amongst the guys are excellent. The Grenadian athletes.
Rudian?
And certainly, when you see sportsmanship like that, it changed the sport on a whole. Definitely that's what we want to see. That we can shake hands, we can hug. I remember growing up in primary school, my brother and I was in different house, but we compete against each other when the time come. In the end, we're still brothers, but at the moment, we rival, right? So,
Yeah.
so certainly, you want to see that, and we could congratulate each other. One of the things that you said is that the sport is all rounded. I think a lot of times we see some schools focus on one and not focus on the other. But one other thing, I was speaking with someone actually last night, and I was saying in the areas that I seen, and we was talking about McDonald College, is that we need to be all rounded. The field events is just as important. So I've seen schools having win one event and win a championship.
Yeah.
They win with the field events, they come second, they come third, and those points adds up. Those points adds up. So in the field events is key. Once you have a sport that have field events, if you don't have your field events, you certainly will be in trouble. And that's something that I like to hear you talk about. It's a surrounding aspect about it. So again, listen. I love what I've seen. Um, I don't see no fault in the sport in terms of the teams, the rival, and so forth. What I see, I like what I've seen. I see the future for Grenada, especially on the female side. If the and I'm saying that again, if the government really truly pay homage to the athletes in Grenada and put the time, effort, and funding in them, I see a future for track and field in Grenada beyond what we just seen. It'll be nice to see more meets, and that's what I was going to come to. because you have your meet in December. They give you 4 months for Intercol. What changes would you like to see in between December and in March? What would you like to see? And for me, I would like to see more meets. And I think once you have your team selected, you could go to more games. They would like to see more of that happening. So just want to hear your take on that.
Right. After all sports in December, they had a couple of the ministry mini meets, as well as they had club meets. They had they had some of our sprinters got invitational to some of the sports where we use that as competition too. Um, no, because the availability of competitive meets after our sport, what we usually do is we have our guys after almost every 2 weeks we have our in-house competition, and if you put together our team has a lot of fast boys. Our team have a lot of fast boys. There's boys that wasn't even highlighted for the intercall. They just happens to didn't make the team, and those that made the team really exemplify the coaches. That's why they was there. But the competition, in-house competition, is very very tough. What I can tell you is to make the GBSS intercall team, you have to be good because we have in-house competition too. Um, going forward, government sake as well as the institution GAA, if we could get meets, the clubs are involved, and we're looking to see if we get corporate sponsors involved. And once we could get these things happening, we will have some good athletes. As Rudy had correctly said, the future for athletics in Grenada is looking very good. We have to find somehow to keep these athletes on track and invest in them.
All right. Let's so we should have the one of the coaches from the St. David's Catholic Secondary School on soon. But let me go on to one of our other guests, Mr. Kaj Stephen. And Kaj, again, I welcome you to the program and probably ask you how did you first get into track and field, or what motivated you to pursue track and field at such a young age?
Well, for me, basically, I always like athletics, so that, drive me to do better and just stay in the sport and see what I can do better.
I jokingly ask your parents, where you got it from, mom, dad. You know, obviously, they'll be biased. Mom will say she, dad will say her, but you can probably throw cold water at that.
Well, basically, I got it from like my both sides, but more on my dad's side, because part of my dad family used to run, so I believe I got it from them.
Okay, well that's good to know. So Gary Stephen, you have 5 points, right? You got some points there. But Kaje, a lot being said about you at this age, right? At this age, you were running almost as fast as our legendary Kirani James. I have seen photos with yourself and Kirani. Certainly, there's some sort of synergy, some sort of motivation. Talk to me about what is really inspiring you to achieve greatness.
Well, Kirani is also one of my inspirations. He inspired me to do better. And yeah, I just love to see him around. I just want to be great like him. I even be greater than him. So yeah.
Right. That's so good to know. Let me just play something for you,
And
and
there
then
they
we'll
go.
discuss after.
Out like a bullet is Kaj Stephen and Philip Mitchell. Kaj Stephen taking that turn. Philip Mitchell on his inside. It's Kaj Stephen and Philip Mitchell as they straighten up. It's Kaj Stephen, but here comes Philip Mitchell. It's Stephen and Mitchell. It's gonna be Kaj Stephen. Revenge is sweet for Kaj Stephen of GBSS.
Bernstein, what a rivalry. I suspect we are going to see this played over and over and over in the years to come if these young men stick with the program.
Oh yes, we've seen a rivalry being built here. Kaj Stephen taking the turn. Head me home, take me home from the 100 meters.
We want to remind our audience, this is sub-junior boys. That's 13 and 14-year-old. And look at the rivalry, look at the intensity, look at the desire. These young men here, all 8 of these young men. So it's Kaj Stephen winning this one. In second position, Philip Mitchell. Giovanni Daniel from St. David's Catholic Secondary School, 23.76. He had a good run also. And in fourth position, Samson Phillip. Fifth position, Kendon Worm, Jared Alexander from Happy Hill. Happy represented here and represented well, 24.77 seconds.
Right. So 22.77 seconds. Kaj, at what point did you know that you had that sub-junior boys record? At what point were you aware that not just the record, but Kirani James's record?
Well, basically in the heats, I ran 22.86 with a negative wind speed, so I knew coming into the finals with great competition, it will push me even further to run a faster time than Kirani. So when I saw the time, I was just elated and I was very happy with my performance.
The commentators were talking about revenge.
Yeah.
It appears there's a rivalry between yourself and Mitchell or Giovanni. Which one?
Actually, well, basically everybody, but mostly Mitchell.
Mostly Mitchell. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, right. And so you had the 200 already in the bag. There was more to come at some point in time. Kaj, so what was the frame of mind for you preparing for those other events? Because that was only on, I think, was day 2.
Well, I decided, well, firstly, I stayed focused. I made sure that I executed well, and I'm just here.
Right. The question that most will be asking, because you're very young, at a very young age, right? And certainly there are a lot of things that can play between now and then. But with comparison being made to, Kirani James, how do you handle the pressure and expectations that come with that level of, stardom, as we'll say?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Yeah, well, how do you handle that level of pressure? I mean, a lot of people are juggling, the idea of yourself, comparing yourself to Kirani James and others. How do you handle that pressure? How do you remain focused?
For me, it's just me being myself. He's a very good inspiration to me, so I'm just trying to be even better than him. So I'm just, trying to be myself, and other people can be an inspiration to me. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. And Coach Benjamin, that's a big, well, it's not just Kaj, we have Kaj and others, but certainly you're seeing talent. There is reasons for you and others to harness the talent. What is the game plan with Kaj Stephen and others?
Okay. So Mr. Kaj Stephen, Kamal Joseph, and some of our top athletes are being coached by Mr. Lee Coffey. And Mr. Lee Coffey is one of the better track coaches here in Grenada, as you can see now from results wise. And we keep saying that, you know, Kashi Kirani broke the records. No, our school song said the torch handed on by others we must keep alive today, right? And we all, the majority of GBSS boys, we know that. And I been in GBSS, and I taught there while Kirani was there for the 5 years. And Kashi is here now, running faster than Sir James, and he has almost the same mentality as Sir James. Very calm, very pleasant. Go outside there, trains hard, and mean business when the time comes. If you realize, very simple words, not too long, don't speak too long, be precise, and stop. And the resemblance and all that is just Kirani James. Just Kirani James. Now, the future for Kashi, I'm seeing him going very, very far with that humble humility and brain, and he works very hard for what he's doing. So it's not like a talented kid that just happens to show up. He works very, very, very hard in training, and so do majority of the athletes. Very, very hard. So looking into the future, it is bright for him.
I just saw a question from Mr. Chenny Joseph, he says he's in Moscow and he extending congratulations to all the schools, but he wants to know from you in terms of the recruitment process, how is the recruitment process for the next season?
Well, the recruitment process yesterday was a big one. Yesterday was a big recruitment process. That motorcade, I saw athletes who verge of not wanting to go to GBSS based on what they heard about GBSS. And I saw that motorcade capture the soul. I saw that win at the Intercol did just what he had to do. Capture the souls of people who more or less slipped to the side of wanting to understand what GBSS is all about. No, GBSS is all about great men, great women. As we say now, the great is the GBSS, and this is where we're going to stand to our motto and our school. And recruitment, sometimes we just sit back and watch it happen. Before I used to go to almost all the primary school games and look at the games and recruit athletes. But now, where we have a lot of clubs working, it's just the school. The school name alone calls athletes now. The school performance calls athletes. So the recruitment, we don't need much to go outside and recruit, because enough times schools approach parents and students with negative narratives about GBSS and lead them to other schools, and we at the GBSS will get maybe about the 4th or the 5th contender in that same event, and my coaching staff and myself, we work with the 4th and 5th place in primary school games and come back at Intercol games and be the person who won the gold medal. So it's all about what program you have. It's not the talent, it's the program.
All right. Let me see. I think Sister Denise Williams is joining us. He's trying to get a good, I think there's a window open in the background, so we not see that clearly. So she probably will just turn a bit so the light can get into her face and we be able to see.
She's trying to show us how St. David's looking.
Yeah, I think she's trying to show us the brightness of St. David's. So we not see clearly, but hopefully. Yes. Ms. Williams, congratulations once again, St. David's Catholic Secondary School. That's about how many now? About
20.
So many. How many?
20.
And 20 straight?
Yep. No, not straight. We had.
Right. So that's number 20 altogether, right? Yeah. So congratulations once again. I have my thing here, but I'm sort of losing count. I'll have to finish it up at some point. But hopefully, going into 2026, I'll be back on track. But at at what point, Ms. Williams, did you or your staff or your team was sort of convinced that you had it in the bag? Because unlike previous years, I'm telling you, you didn't have to compete on the final day. Um, this year, though, you had to fight for it. I would say that, which was good for in terms of the competition, which is also good for your athletes in bringing out the true potential of all your athletes. They don't have to relax; they have to really run and really fight for the championship. But how did your team gauge, knowing that the challenge, because I'm certain, Miss Williams, you have been following all the other meets, including the national championships, looking at the athletes, so certainly you'll have an idea of who are your challengers. So what was the frame of mind for St. David's Catholic Secondary School going into 2025?
Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for having me. Let me just say congrats to the Grenada Boys Secondary School and all the other schools who participated. It was a great competition, Michael. And as you said, it was not an easy win for us. We went into the championship knowing that it's going to be challenging and tough to win, but we did pull it off. I think when we started the relays, we realized, well, okay, we have it now because we were 23 points in front. We had the sub-junior relay, 23 points in front. And we said, okay, even if we didn't place come in the first three, at least we're going to get points. And then the 4x4, we are going to get points. So no way would SAS meet us. But it was tough. We enjoyed it. I loved the competition. It was maybe one of the best intercall we have ever had in the trial and state. And I really want to commend all the athletes. I would like to commend us, high school, Boca, Convent, Happy, all the athletes and all the schools that participated in Intercol 2025. We are happy to be winners, but it wasn't an easy victory.
Mm-hmm. And you and following the various meets, including national champs, the relay, and some of the meets that organized by the Athletic Association in particular, I'm talking about. Were you of the opinion as well, Ms. Williams, that this year, 2025, I mean, I know you're saying it now, it was a very, competitive meet. Probably one of the best we have seen in terms of rivalries in a very long time. But were you convinced that it will be a very competitive meet based on what you have seen leading up to Intercol?
Yes, I was. And when I looked at national champs, I said, wow, it's going to be tough. Because I thought Boca was right there. I thought high school and SAS, and it was going to be tough. And plus also on the last day in the high jump, one of our main senior athletes damaged her ankle. That was the first event of the day, and I think she would have won the hurdles, placed in the high jump, and placed in the long jump also, but that didn't happen. And when that happened, I said, God, you know what? It's in your hands. Now, I thought we were going to win, but I'm not the person who go about boasting and say, well, yes, we have it in the bag. It's going to be 20 and all of that thing. Because I always figure on the day of Intercol, on the first day, everybody lined up with 0 points. So anything could happen.
Yeah.
And you will not find St. David's Catholic Secondary School going about saying, no, we have this one in the bag and all of that. No.
Mm-hmm. And another thing, and you're in a position, Miss Williams, because you have coached a lot of athletes, even national coach. So sometimes you don't only speak about St. David's Catholic Secondary School. You speak about athletes in general. We have seen that even some of the, as we were saying in earlier, myself and Rudian, the lesser known schools gaining points. St. George's Institute, for example, just about everyone was able to knock a point or two on. What it says about the level of competition.
When you looked at national champs, Michael, and you saw the performance of the athletes, and you saw some no-name school. I wouldn't like to say no-name, but persons who have never won Intercol before, and you saw them doing well. And I knew that, hello, they may score points in Intercol. And I'm very happy for them, but I really want to commend the clubs, because once these athletes find themselves in a club and they train from July to Intercol for the entire, are going to perform well. And that's what, when we won Intercol before, Mr. Bascom, for all the years we won, maybe we were the only school that was training from September. When we heard that the school started to train in September, we went back to August. To train in August, we went back to June to make and now I'm so happy we started something, and I'm so happy to see schools and coaches, clubs, I should say, are working with athletes all year round. It's a blessing, and I think we can only go up from here.
Yep.
And you think that with what's happening now, it's sort of the landscape is sort of changing, that some of the schools will, and the coaches and will take it very serious, because they're seeing the sort of payoff, they're seeing the dividends, the sponsorship now coming in, more opportunities for athletes in terms of rewards and things like that. So do you think there will be not that they haven't taken it seriously, but you'll see some more emphasis and more effort being put into preparation and execution?
I think so. I think we're going to see after Intercol this year, we're going to see maybe from July more persons are training and working hard. I looked at McDonald College; they have done really well also. Without a coach, I know Mr. Glynn tries his best. Mr. Andal is there, but he's a principal. It's hard to be a principal and be out in the field every day coaching. But they did very well, and I think next year again they're going to come back with a bang. They're going to come back and be very competitive.
I asked Mr. Benjamin that question, and I'm asking you that. If you have to include in your school, though, if you have to highlight or mention some outstanding performers and performances, including those from your schools, who are some of those you will mention?
Well, of course, it's obvious for my school. We all know.
Yeah, well, started with your school.
2.7 and 23.89, we all know. Shade John. That's a phenomenal performance. It's a long time we haven't seen a female athlete run so fast in Grenada, and it's a blessing. So we really want to sing. I thought in my mind that she was the best performer for Intercol season, even if she participated in 2 events. And what we must note, she maybe would have participated in the long jump and won, maybe the shot put and won because she's strong. But I decided, you know what, character is it for her. Last year she was a bit hurt. I'm not going to risk her to put her in the long jump. I'm not going to risk her to put her in the shot put. So I decided, okay, she's just going to do the one. Well, we decided that she's just going to do the 1 and 2. But I must highlight Shade. I must also highlight Peaches Pancho from McDonald College. She worked hard. Christiana Charles from SAS. We also had Tishana Bascom as a first-year junior coming into and winning the gold medal in the 100 meters. It was a really good performance. And of course, in the boys, we had Mr. Ethan, Mr. Stephen, we had Mr. George, Kyle, of course, Mr. Calise. We had some good performances. We had McDonald College having a good performance in Tyreek Thomas, I think. So we had some good performance. But what we have to note though, if you look at the senior female, besides Shadi, the performances are very low, weak. When you look at the senior female javelin, the winning was 29 point something. Senior female shot put, again, 10. So senior female 400 meters, 59.14. We're concerned. I'm very much concerned about our senior female athletes. When I look at the performance of these athletes, we have a lot of work to do with our senior female athletes.
Okay. Well, hopefully our talented juniors will be able to change that landscape in probably a year or two, but certainly, I heard the name, I think Chenny is mentioning Christoph, the sub also of SAS, and
Yeah.
Delwell John, and I saw the name Walker. Is it, what is Gavia Walker? Is from SAS, right? You mentioned Ian George, and you know the late Matlin, Jimmy Matlin,
Jimmy
right?
McLean.
Yeah,
Uh,
and certainly you will be proud of seeing the rivalry between Ian George and Ethan Sam, right?
mhm.
Knowing that Jimmy always used to talk about, well, I know from personally, he used to call me and talk about these athletes, always talking about these athletes and, where, despite them attending different schools, but he spoke about them because he knew them from a very young age. In fact, when they started off in Speed Zone and all of that. What you thought about the rivalry between these two athletes and what you
Oh,
saw after in terms of, the camaraderie and things like that. So,
I think they bring out the best in each other competing. Ethan, he's better than one, not the two.
that is
I
true.
don't know. I just think he gave Ian the win. I don't thought so. I just looked at him and said, okay, what? In my mind, I thought he gave him the win because when you look at the after the race hugging up and everything, you realize no man, Ethan gave the man the win. But they're very good athletes, good for future, good for Grenada. I mean, I know Ethan and I usually refer to him as my son. So I think I'm gonna ask him that. I say, Ethan, did you give Ethan the win? I'm convinced he did because he told me, he said, Miss Irans are coming back for them in the 200 meters at Intercol. He told me this after national champs. But I love to see them compete together.
Rivalry.
I love to see how they hug up each other after the game, knowing that they were together from small. And I think that they're gonna do well for Grenada at character.
Now, I will get to Mr. Benjamin about that in a while, but you have been involved in track and field for probably 90 something percent of your life, Ms. Williams, because you have been
Yeah.
around for quite a while. Track and field is part of you, right?
Mm.
Sports, mentoring, all of that. If you have to make some suggestions, Ms. Williams, because we've seen very good talent, right? We, we had the minister last week. Before that, we had the principals, speaking. But if you have to make some suggestions, some recommendations, and not just about Intercol, you can speak about Intercol, but track and field in general, in terms of enhancing, in terms of nurturing, in terms of ensuring that, and not just track, I said track and field, because I know that's a passion for you as well. What are some of the suggestions you will put on the table for the authorities, whether the Principals Association or the ministry?
Number one suggestion, equipment. We need to furnish the schools with equipment.
Hmm.
I looked at Anderson throwing in an evening. Remember in Anderson days throwing javelin, he had one javelin, he went and he threw it, he had to go back, pick it up and throw it again. Now you look and he has a lot of javelin. But we need a lot more equipment in the schools for the athletes to go on faster. We need to check on the kids' nutrition. A lot of these kids have nothing to eat. Thank God for us for the school feeding program where they can get a hot meal every day. And we have to ensure that these athletes are well fed. I also think key that the coaches should be give some stipend for coaching. I did it free, Mr. Bascom, and I'm telling you, I know there isn't anybody in Canada that's going to give up their life to coaching as I did. But I'm happy, and if I have to do it, I'll do it all over again. But it takes a lot out of you to be coaching every evening, and I think they should really consider giving the coaches a stipend. Even if you start, okay, you have some level 5 coaches or level 4 coaches or whatever. You want to start with them or give them a bit more than the others, but we have people working really hard. I look at the young man from PBC, Mr. Cato, doing a wonderful job with his athletes. Then you look at, I mean, Mr. Coffee may have a little help with Mr. Benjamin and them there. But you look at some coaches, by themselves. So I think the ministry and the government and everybody needs to step up, provide the schools with some equipment, provide the coaches with some stipends, see what could be done for the athletes who are training hard, where as it relates to their nutrition, maybe even a better home to stay. We have government giving out house left, right, and center. We have some athletes staying in some little tumble down thing. Can't get a good rest at night. I think that that key. And then we have to let the principal association know that some of these athletes are doing exam and proper. What can we do? Because it's affecting their performance. In Hisland and Kishara, they did 6 subjects and 7 subjects. That was enough. Nowadays it's 14 and 15 and 16 and 17. And some of the athletes want to attend it. How do you tell them no? When their parents are saying to you, Miss Williams, you're not sure they're going to make it in track. So they must have an education. How would we draw the line? Right? So all other things you have to take into consideration. But I think key, we need to furnish the schools with equipment. Thank God that the Grenada Athletic Association placed, the high jumping mats in some of the parishes and a few equipment. But we need more starting blocks, we need more javelin, we need more shot put, discus. Look at, for example, St. David's Sandpit, we beg for sand. We didn't even get a grain, not a grain of sand we got. And yet our athletes were still able to perform, win medals in the long jump. Okay? But and I think we need to check on the athletes too, mentally. Sometimes they're not there, sometimes they're bothered. We see it was a tough intercall, Mr. Bascom. We saw it on the athletes. We saw tears. Some of them were tears of joy, tears of disappointment. We saw athletes getting hurt and injured, right? And I mentally, some of them are not there. I saw an athlete crying. No, all of them asking what was wrong with him. They don't know. He's not speaking, but the pressures could be hard on these athletes.
All right. I just want to read that because Mr. Joseph is saying that, Mike, as you have the coaches here, I believe the time has arrived that Intercol becomes a finals only event. The preliminaries should take place 3 weeks leading up to the 3-day games. This also will allow athletes to perform even better and well rested. Chenny, I have my own views on that, but I will let the coaches answer that because I don't know how it will fit in the schedule. But Nick, you go first.
Well, I heard people spoke about it before, but it wouldn't really work. I'll tell you why. Now, you thinking about based on the seasons that we have. Some of the kids play well. One athlete in your school might play all the sport. Now you having based on the Olympic, we keep standards. The guys do the event in the morning time prelims and the finals is the same day. No, I think where Chenny coming from is rest for the athletes. That is the only reason. But outside of that, I think it's okay. It's just where if you're looking for rest, you're thinking about where you place the events. I think it's okay.
Ms. Williams?
I think, when you look at our competition over the world, you don't have hits 3 weeks before. And that's how we prepare the athletes for. They have to go through the rounds. Maybe all of that. So if you're mirroring our meet after Olympics or whatever, that's what happens.
World Championships,
yeah. 3 weeks before, and then you talk about no.
A lot of things will happen between that 3 weeks, eh? Yeah. They
No,
may go and play football, netball.
The athletes are trained for that. You prepare when you're training program. Okay, you have to go through the rungs, and they are prepared for that. It's just happened that at Intercol, some athletes did too much, so it was tough on them. But I don't think at any higher meet they're going to be doing so much, and because it's a point system, and again, it's because of the size of the schools, you don't have all these athletes or male or female persons to choose from, so you have one athlete that is very good who have to do everything. For example, we have an athlete by the name of Sydney Douglas. She won the most outstanding sub-junior girl. I think she was the most outstanding athlete of the game, but I have to check this because I'm not too sure. Okay? She did everything. She did the 1, the 2, the 4 hurdles,
Long jump.
long jump, high jump, shot put. She
Hmm.
did everything. Nothing was wrong with her. She stood up tall at the end of the day. We prepared her for that. She's a strong athlete. All right, so she was able to participate in all of them, make finals, medal in almost all of them. But she trained for almost the whole year, so she knows what it is like. But we have athletes who started training in February. It might be hard for them to go through the rounds. And so once the athletes are prepared, you run the, for example, in Olympic or Carifta or whatever, you run the semifinals, and about the hour or two after you have the finals. So that's what I think Intercol is kind of a preparing persons for. We mirror it after the big games.
Right. Before I get back to you, coaches, I just want to ask Kashe. Kashe, I know you have been listening to the coaches there. You know them pretty much. How has your family and your support system played a role in your athletic journey thus far? Speak about that support system.
Well, my coaches has always believed in me, so for them believing in me makes me feel okay. And as my parents will know, always be there with me. They'll always support me in everything that I do. So it's just a blessing to have them here with me to do what I do best.
And for those who probably came on late, who are some of your inspirations in the world of track and field? Well, we know one already, but who are some of the others?
Well, Usain Bolt is one of my favorites as well. Kirani James and Julian Alfred.
Julian Alfred, we're glad to hear that. There are some questions there for the coaches. That they very much agreeing with what you're saying, both Mr. Benjamin and Miss Williams, and particularly for the assistants. In fact, the the father of Kaj Stephen is saying that I second Miss Williams' suggestion that a lot of athletes and coaches are going through hell in the background, which they need assistance. And the hurtful part is most of the athletes that are performing are those being affected. And then Shauna Coffey is saying, yes, she's speaking about the mental debriefing is key in sports. And Quincy says, I agree, coaches need financial assistance. And Jim is saying, Ian George convincingly pushed himself to victory. Ethan Sam did admit during the interview, at the end of the day, athletes recognizing each other ability is key to friendly rivalry. Right. Roger Dunk, I would like to know from the coaches if they would like to see the addition of some new events at Intercol and what such events. Benji, you can go first.
Right. So what event? No, we just recently in the national championship we had tried to complete the decathlon, and we realized that the pole vault event didn't happen. The pole vault event didn't happen, and I am certain that we have at least one that I know of, a coach who is very competent in the coaching of pole vault. His name is Mr. Kevin James. I think Miss Williams knows him very well, and he had the opportunity to coach one of the St. Andrews Anglican Secondary School students to pole vault, and he went on. So that is an event I believe that we should add into our school curricula too. Now, Miss Williams also spoke about the equipments. Now, this is one of the things that is plaguing performance here in Grenada. Is plaguing the performances. She also mentioned the sandpit. Now, GBSS has dominated the long jumps and I'm strong competitor in the triple jump, which we talking about the sand events. And we have no sandpit in Tantine. So it's just the technique and poor to coaches who have the ability to train and teach the kids how to perform when they finally meet sun. Right? Now, the stipend wise. Now, a lot of people don't understand that being a coach, you're a teacher, you're a parent. And a lot of the kids, they comes there from background that can help them too. And you as the coach, listen well, you as the coach, with the little that you have and not getting assistant, still have to support yourself and these kids.
Definitely.
And these kids. And we're talking not just clothes, you know. You're talking about eats, drinks, everything. And we also spoke about the mental capacity. If we as coaches don't have it, a lot of kids are lost too. Because we try our best to convert them from a lot of stuff. A lot of time people don't understand that the coaches know more about the athletes, children more than the parents.
I quite agree.
Because they confide in you.
Mm-hmm.
They confide in you. They tell you everything that they need, that they will tell you, that they won't tell the parents. If they're hungry, if they have some breakdown, everything they will come to you. And a lot of people, I think they're not understanding that as coaches, we have a task. We have a serious task. But with all that said, I think a way forward in our athletics is concentration camps. When I say concentration camps, I mean we have a crop of athletes that is performing very, very well in the sprints, as well as we have a crop of athletes that is performing very, very well in the field. Then you have some again in the middle distance. Concentration camp I'm talking about is you get a couple coaches that is capable of dealing with the sprinters in a program under the ministry probably, or some private entity who would push monies into that area and provide equipment and all the needs for those areas, and have these kids training under that umbrella for a period of time towards competition. I think that is a good way forward for us here in Grenada. And Miss Williams, she said it again too. Friendly rivalry. All the athletes. We, as I tell you earlier on, patrons and supporters may not know, but coaches who are around the athletes would know that all those athletes are friends. All.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All those athletes are friends.
Yeah, Miss Williams, you were adding something to that. Yeah.
One key thing I want us to think about also is when the athletes train, or they should be able to see a physiotherapist quite often. There are aches, there are pains, and we see it on the big scale. When they compete, after competing, they stretch them, they do all that. I'd like to suggest Mr. Paul Phillip, who's the coach of the St. David's Catholic Secondary School, take money from his pocket to pay a physiotherapist who comes in twice a week at Lasages. The physiotherapist is Stephen Frank. He was an athlete from Westerhall Secondary School. He went and studied in China. He's a very good athlete, and he said that is one of the things that prevented him from going further. He was injured and not much help. So he comes to Lasages, as I said, Mr. Phillip has to pay him. And the athletes run hard, Grenada get the glory, but behind the scene, a lot of money is being spent by private individuals. That's why I think the corporate citizens should come forward and assist the athletes, come forward and assist the clubs and the schools. I commend Mr. Classic Lighting. I commend him. So many schools are under his belt. Well, I said we got Wagiti, but some of the schools don't know where to turn. I mean, I'm sure schools can't afford to pay a physiotherapist. Mr. Paul doesn't even have money, but he sees the need for it, and that's why he takes money from his pocket to pay Mr. Frank to work on the athletes. And Shadi is a testimony to the work that Mr. Frank did. She always had injuries. And this year, Just like that, she has gone.
Yes.
Yeah. So let me read this to you. Mr. Michael Sherman, and we know Michael Sherman is, a former teacher involved in sports. He's living outside of Grenada now. Yeah, he says, "Good afternoon, all. I just wanted to add my 2 cents to just concluded GAPS Athletic Championships. On a scale of 10, I will rate it 9. He said, congratulations to the male and female divisions. Looking forward to 2026. And he would like to recommend have a mini athletic village using TAMCC campuses for schools, for the outer parishes, and the schools in a 50 miles radius use the schools. Have a constant series of public speaking for athletes at the school level." I think that was something we referred to programs on our program, I should say, with the principals regarding the camps for those athletes out of the St. George's area. Well, I mean, I know the GBSS. In fact, since I was attending the GBSS more than 30 years ago, they had camps. Camp is part of the regular thing, okay, and it pays off to some. But Ms. Williams, I don't know if your school is one that is affected in terms of having the athletes returning home from day one, getting them to the respective homes, then back together again for day 2 and into day 3, especially where some of your athletes may even be living in St. Andrews, for example, not just in St. David's. Do you have a
Yeah.
problem with that as well?
Yes, it was very challenging. The first night, athletes had to be dropped home, and St. Louis athletes, they do not stay on the main road. Few of them.
Yeah.
All the outer roads. We had to go to Vincent's, we have to go to Syracuse, we have to go up Mount Agnes, we have to go up Labu, and all those. We go down Cafe, go down Demon to drop athletes home. So reach home late. I just have to remind them that bathe, rub down your skin, get up in the morning again, head to school to get a breakfast to come. It was tough, but I think they can never use it, yeah, because that's what happens at national champs. It happens in with some tide and the mini meets and stuff. So, but it may not be the right thing for them, especially for the teachers who are with them, because you have to ensure that they get to. And so you reach home after 11 minutes to 12 almost every night.
Wow.
It's not difficult.
Yes, it is. And for those of you who have been clamoring for a longer championship in terms of 4 or probably 5 days, then you could understand why it is very challenging because
I was praying for the 3 days to finish. Trust me.
yeah, but it's very challenging because the athletes themselves have to be very disciplined in terms of getting home, doing exactly what they need to do themselves, in terms of getting themselves, whether it's rub down, ice down, whatever it is like that. So getting the rest and getting prepared for the next day, So it's quite a task, and I just have to congratulate all the athletes, all the schools for ensuring. And one of the things I noticed, Miss Williams and Mr. Benjamin, is that for those of us who are looking on, I don't know, you folks would have been in the background, so you may have noticed that probably differently. Less of the injuries that we have seen in previous years on the track, where athletes are pulling up, and things like that. Is it has to do, and I'm asking you, is it probably better preparations?
Education. And education. You see, when you educate coaches, coaches know exactly what to do, how to work, how not to make this happen, preventative methods, education. So the coaches is more educated, I should say, know about the injuries and how to reduce the risk of. And let me just check back a little when you spoke about the traveling. It is hard. It is hard. I can recall when the Intercol games went to Grenville, and I know my athletes traveling on a bus from the GBSS to La Sagesse to play football as an athlete. I used to feel that bus ride. We used to have to go up kind of like close to an hour before in order to get me to play football because I feel sick. We ain't accustomed to this long riding. No, what we did, what what we did is we try our best to find a place in St. Andrews, which was Monks and Albans. So we camped in St. Andrews. And I know you would never get 100% from an athlete who is tired after a day of event. I have to travel from St. George's to St. Andrews or St. Mark's and back home in the morning time. You can't get it. And I knew that would happen to my athletes. So I made sure that the principal and all everybody find some way in St. Andrews for us to stay, because this traveling won't work for athletes. And even national teams too. National teams are traveling from Grenada to participate in meets. Should be there. Approximately 2 weeks before the event. And we all know that this should be climatizing. Climatizing is very, 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 very important. Otherwise, it's more or less the forcing.
Ms. Williams?
Yes, as you spoke about less injuries, and I must commend the medical team that worked at the sports. We had, well, I experienced 2 injuries with my athletes. One twisted ankle in the high jump and the other one in the hurdle. And we went there with Dr. Sonia Phillip and her team. The reception we got was awesome. She then said to us she would have to send us up to the hospital to x-ray the ankle. We went up there, and before we reached, they were expecting us. They did what they had to do. They x-rayed the ankle, they put on a back slab, and I just want to commend them. Even Mr. McIntyre outside with his team, they did a wonderful job looking after the athletes, because on the first day, as you said, we had no injuries. And I went in there, Dr. Sonia said the only thing they had was spectators, not athletes, spectators who got injured by being hit on something. But the athletes, I think they're better able to manage how they perform and how much water they take in. I think they're better able to manage the coach, because the coaches have been preaching to them. So we had few injuries. But I really want to commend the team, the medical team, who were there at the Intercol games.
Yeah. Rudian?
Certainly, Ms. Williams. I do want to congratulate you for not just the past 3 days, but over the years, what the dedication that you have put in for track and field. I've been hearing about you for decades. So certainly, and there have not been but a lot of good things that coming out from what you have done for St. David's. So congratulations to that. You guys spoke about a lot of good things that cost. Everything that you mentioned is a high cost to it. And I think I know for a fact there are things that can be done, and there are something that is very hard to get done because of the cost of it. I would like to see the principal association with some sort of funding get a hotel. So schools that can come in could just stay at a hotel. Listen what I'm
Rudian,
saying. This is what I'm saying, my friend.
Not
Hear what
bad
I'm saying?
hotel.
I would like to see that, because there is nothing better for an athlete to sleep in a very good bed. And that's why sometimes it's better to sleep in their own bed.
Okay.
But I understand the traveling is difficult, but there's nothing better than an athlete to sleep in their own bed, or in at least a place that has a definitely good bed to sleep
Let's
on.
say, Rudian, instead of saying hotel, let's say probably accommodation, because it could
No,
be.
I'm going to say hotel. I'm
No,
going to say hotel.
we might be
Is
limited in
the-
terms of hotel rooms for all these athletes. So that's what I'm
yeah,
saying.
but something can be booked in advance.
But
You could book it. You could lock it in a year. You could lock. I am just saying. Listen, for us to move, we need to get better. We
Rudian,
need to
hold
think
on.
think big.
Even the character games, having
Yeah,
athletes and officials in hotels is a challenge, right? In terms of the room stock in Grenada. So I'm saying accommodation might be a better, because it can be guest houses, whatever. But hotels
yeah.
have been it might be that might be a big push, because the cost of hotels and thing around this time, and a lot of factors. But I think I understand the point you're making in terms of the accommodation, trying to accommodate our athletes some way or the other. Because we spoke about Karaku, for example. I think Mr. Andal spoke about the issue with Karaku having, for some reason, well, not for
Yes.
some reason.
Yeah.
If any school has to be accommodated, it will be Karaku, right? Because
Certainly.
they're coming to the mainland, right?
Yeah.
Outside of that, the other athletes, yes, they can, stay. Probably some of the schools can have a camp in their school, for example. So the athletes staying in the school, and then instead of they're going back to their respective villages. And the case of St. David's, in fact, I never thought about the challenges for St. David's, because we spoke about all these the other parishes in particular when we had St. Andrews and St. Patrick's. But when you look at St. David's, what Ms. Williams is explaining there is very challenging, because most of the villages, they are off the main road, right? So it means that you have to go into, the villages, and you're talking about a couple miles in, and in some cases they might have to walk and
I,
all of that.
I
So if
know.
they can stay in the
Michael,
school,
I've been around when we had to get some kids to Davi
well,
in
right.
St. Patrick's.
If
You get what I'm saying?
if
And
the
then get a
schools
boom. So yeah, certainly.
if the schools
Yeah.
can probably, as a start, have a camp where they can stay at the school, so that will be a central place. So when they leave the stadium, for example, they're going back to
They
the
have a
school.
place to the
Yeah,
school. Yeah,
to the school instead of going back to the villages. But that's,
certainly.
I mean, I
That
understand the
also is
point
a
about
challenge. Yeah.
I understand the point about the accommodation, right? But that to me is, I mean, when you look at it, well, I know for boys and girls champs, they actually stay in Kingston. There's no way the athletes going back to Montego Bay after, after day one and day two and things like that.
Yeah,
They stay
but
in
we
the city.
also we,
So that, yeah.
we also had to
Go ahead,
understand
Mr.
that
Williams.
camp two is very expensive. Huh?
It's a cost.
Yeah,
It's a cost. It's a
yeah, it's a
cost.
cost.
Camp is very
It's a cost.
expensive.
Yeah,
It's
Yeah,
very,
it's a
very
cost.
expensive
So,
for
so
food
there's a,
and
and
yeah, very
I
expensive.
mean, I certainly do understand the concept of seeing to it, especially at the magnitude of these games that we have. That's why we're definitely looking to see that more sponsors getting involved to fit some of this criteria that we know that you guys are putting forward. And it's not only that too; it's also transportation. Also, you know what I mean? To get people from all the students are coming from St. Andrews, all the students coming from St. Patrick's. Like the distance also is also something that we gotta look into as well. Got to think of that at the same time as well, right? So
well,
certainly it is a good idea to have something stable, a place where they can go, something that's locked in 9 months in advance. That at least you have something that is there that can help some of them. And it may not be all. And I know sometimes some coaches talk about getting all. See, some kids they may not run until the next day. They're not running on the first day. They run on day two. So it may not be
Williams,
for everybody, right?
Williams,
So,
yeah, but we spoke about that already, and Mr. Andal warned you. He says
but
that,
it's the truth.
yeah, that
I
no, that
understand what he
you
said.
don't,
Try to keep the team together. I get that. You understand? But then what? To a cost.
yeah,
So you
but
have to think about certain things at the same time.
yeah, well,
You have to
yes,
think about that,
and
right?
they
So
looked at it and
yeah,
they said that having a camp could be as probably, and Mr. Andal said that, more expensive than even if the students have to go back, the athletes go back home. But at the same
back
time,
home. Yeah.
you don't want a situation where, yes, an athlete may be running, their first race might be on day 2 or day 3, just for, as an example. What happens on day 1? You don't want a situation where that athlete just decide to stay home or unattended, unsupervised, whatever it is, and then when time for day 2 or day 3, they didn't show up for some reason or the other, or they got
Yep.
injured, or probably on day 1 they went on the beach, and and these sort of things. So it's a lot of juggling, a lot of parts there. But importantly, I just saw a comment there from Ms. Desiree Stephen, and Desiree is the secretary of the Grenada Athletic Association, and she's saying that camping at school comes with the commitment of staff and parents to be there to supervise and
The
provide for
kids.
the kids. Yeah,
Yeah.
which is very
And that's certainly it.
Yep.
So you guys mentioned I know Miss Williams mentioned about training early. Um, so I see it as a plus and a negative in terms of how you look at it. It's plus to see, as a new thing that coming up now, where you see most schools are involved in early training, and you're going to see that. You will see schools having early meets. You will see that in the upcoming years to come.
They
They meet
follow
will
St.
be earlier.
David's.
Yeah, you understand what I mean? But my concern always fall back on the same thing. Do you have meets in between to maintain your training? Do you have enough meets in between? So I would like to see the principals or coaches have little mini meets. Two schools or three schools coming together and just have little mini meets here and there. It could be just relay only, it could be hundreds only, it could be 200 only. But this is a thing that also training alone cannot help an athlete. They can train, but if they're not competing, it's pointless. You understand? So I like the early training. You understand? But also to see them have little meets. You might have one in October. You might continue going on 1 year up until then. But that's something I would like to see.
We,
Certainly to
we
see that.
have mini-
All right.
the GAO has organized mini meets from October to January, so we have mini meets.
Yeah, those development
Oh,
meets.
okay.
Yeah, so it's just a
Yeah.
matter of participation, them
Yeah.
being part. But Miss Williams, so Ali George is saying, Miss Williams, one of the greatest coaches Grenada has seen. Congratulations to you and your athletes. Great is the St. David's Catholic Secondary School. I think
Great.
GBSS branded that. Great is the GBSS.
I hello.
Hey,
I think
yes, Miss Williams.
for me, great is God, not the same.
Right. Not the St.
He
David's.
gives us the
But
strength. So I don't
right,
like to be, but I know they just say it because it's so good.
right.
That's
Yeah,
all.
it's just a quote, right? But and I know you
Yeah.
like to put credit where credit is due. But Miss Williams, probably about a year or two ago, I spoke to you. We had, you have been on the program before, but it appears that there is no point of you retiring, giving up, turning away from track and field, or from coaching, or from mentoring, Miss Williams. Is there any time you have thought about, you know, packing it all away and turning away from and resting and just being the
Uh,
spectator, Miss Williams the spectator?
I can't coach forever. Presently, I'm not coaching, Mr.
I,
Paul Fitt
yes,
has
I
a
know,
team of
I know,
young coaches that
but
he I just supervise. I'm a narcissist. I
you're still
supervise.
Coach Williams. You're still Coach
I
Williams.
supervise. I mean, Paul, I always say to me, he can take nothing and make it into something. He's really good. It is a pleasure to see him sit down and coach the athletes and speak to them and correct them. So we have some younger coaches working. He has some younger coaches working with him. So I don't have to coach. On Intercol Day, I'm not with the athletes. I have my VIP pass. I could sit down there because I know when to retire.
Miss
Younger persons
Williams, Miss
are coming
Williams,
up.
but
They have to take.
I am certain after day one or day two, you'll have a word or two to the coaches. You will say
So
something,
give,
you'll suggest,
they,
you'll
give
recommend.
them little advice, just little advice.
All right.
I'm
Okay,
not
but
going to be
that's
there
still
forever. I have
yes,
to
I
know
know
what
that.
to do.
But while we're on that, and Mr. Benjamin, I'll come to you about that. Give us a synopsis of the team for St. David's Catholic Secondary School in terms of the coaches, because I know I've reached out to Mr. Rion Radix, to Mr. Paul Williams. I heard about Mr. Francois, Mr. France. Give me the entire
So
coaching staff.
we have Paul Philip, his head coach. We have Mr. Bassanio Nicolas, he works with the throwers. Mr. Michael Francis assists with the throwers and the sprinters. We have Darren Hazard, work with the sprinters. Mr. Radic sometimes with the distance people. And then we have Mr. Francois, who works anyway he's in. He worked mostly with the sprinters. And then we also recently we had Mr. James. He came and he did some work in the high jump. So we have a large team, and we are encouraging them because you learn a lot to just being with him because he's a level 5. He knows a lot of information, and so just by being with him, you could learn a lot to pass on. And he always be talking to the athletes, and then before training, he has a session with them, always sharing motivational tips with them and all of that. He's like a father to many, and everything. So that's the St. David's Catholic. It's actually the Trailblazers team, eh? So a win for St. David's Secondary School is a win for Trailblazers. All the coaches are with Trailblazers. It's the Trailblazers coaches that train St. David's Catholic Secondary School. And not only our school, we trained some athletes from GSS, we had some athletes from SAS, we had athletes from high school, athletes from convent, athletes from SGI. So anybody want to come, they're welcome.
Okay. Quincy is saying retire where Miss Williams behave.
Oh, yeah.
And Mr. Kim Fullerton is saying congratulations GBSS, St. David's Catholic Secondary School, and that's coming from Mr. Fullerton, Saston
Thank you.
Board. Yeah.
So, Michael, you guys mentioned another event. I would like to see the steeplechase.
Mhm.
That's another event I would like to
By the
see
way,
added. The
I think,
steeplechase.
yeah, and thanks Rudian for mentioning that because I think
Yeah.
Mr. Williams missed out that part, but Mr. Benjamin added his part in terms of if you have to look at adding events, Miss Williams, what are some of the events you probably will add to the program if possible?
Pole, pole vault. Now that Carifta has moved to the decathlon, I
Mhm.
will add pole vault. But you see when they keep on adding events, the small schools suffer, eh? They just can't find athletes to do those events, eh? So big school like
Mhm.
GBS and SAS, they will dominate high school and convent. But nonetheless, I think pole vault for now. I don't see us trying to add too many events at a time. We're happy that hurlers were added. Um, the triple jump for female and all of those things. But pole vault for now.
No, it's funny you
Steeplechase.
said that. It's funny you
Mm,
mentioned the pole vault. It's a very difficult event.
mm,
It's very tricky and it's also could be very dangerous. And if you don't have, and the poles is very, very
oh,
expensive.
Expensive.
It
Yep.
is
oh,
the most expensive in track and field, getting the pole vault. In high school out here, we don't have pole vault until you get to the high school, the whole championship, and they have to be a part of a club to do it because most of the schools, so any of the school meets we go to, there is no pole vault. Most of the kids have to be part of a club. It has to be sanctioned. It has to be. We have to get full, document that they are training with the club. So it's a whole thing because it's very dangerous. Even going with high jump too. High jump is also another thing that is also very dangerous because we have seen injury happen with kids who don't have a coach in their schools, and they just come in and jump and they get hurt. So those things are then, and I know, like again, it's good to see us have all these different sports, but some of the sports cost like big time. Like
yeah.
it is a big time cost.
Mhm.
Yeah.
All right. Some comments as we get ready to wrap up here. Desiree Stephen says, and we have seen increased participation of athletes in these meets, especially this season, and a lot of kids who excel participate in almost all these developmental meets. Yeah, especially the right, a lot of the development meets, right? Yes, and I think that's something we referred to earlier, right? Regarding the developmental meets and things like that. So, right.
But Michael, just before you go on to the next thing, when I talk about having those meets, I am not talking about this meets only being in one location. I'm talking about different places.
No, the development meets are
Yeah, yeah.
development
Like
meets are all
in the
over.
future, I'm just saying you'll be one in St. Patrick's when four recreation grounds get them, St. Andrews, St. David. Like no, just moving it around. That's
Yeah,
what I mean in terms of that's what I would like to see in
yeah.
just not sticking in one area, just
No, but
moving it around. It will be good in St. George's because of the national
William,
stadium running on the track, but just
William,
these kids have to be competing.
The development meets are held throughout the country. It's held in Lasajes all over. So it's
Yeah,
and those things start all. I think it's in October, if I'm not mistaken. They have
Yeah.
various development meets. So it's
yeah.
not
Correct.
just at the Kirani James Athletic Stadium. They have development meets. What you probably referring to is we can have more of these and
Yes.
probably more of the probably challenges. So, for example, the schools in St. Patrick's can probably have a meet among themselves. We now have the Western relays. Probably we can have something on the Eastern, and things like that. So, let me get another comment before I get. Kellon Antwine says, afternoon, Mike. Afternoon, panel. Congratulations to the GBSS and St. David's Catholic Secondary School on the well-deserved Intercol Championship. Congratulations, Miss Williams and Nick. Congrats to Kaj Stevens. Keep focused, young man. You are one of the next great athletes in the future. It was the most intriguing and interesting games in both boys and girls division. I'm a SAS past pupil, but I always give praise when it's due. It goes way beyond school representation. The future of Grenada track and field, I guess as much, is great and in good hands. Now, let me put on Cache now because this is specifically to Cache. Good afternoon, all. I am overjoyed to see Cache on this live. I want to thank Coach Benjamin and Coach Lee for not disappointing first choice junior school Grenada. We are absolutely proud of our past student Kaj Stephen, and I'm so elated that he broke Dr. Kirani's record. Mike, you continue to do a tremendous job. Now, Cache, I guess I'm not you're familiar with Miss Elizabeth Forsyth, and certainly I guess I'm not she's one that I can say that myself because I am. I'm a past student. She was my teacher at primary school, so I'm very proud when she speaks about her students, and I know how she feels and how passionate she is. But Cache, when you see those things, when you hear about these things, and I'm certain, probably over the last 48 hours, and I say 48, Intercol finish on Thursday, and between Thursday night and now we're doing the interview. What it has been like for you, Cache, with all probably the congratulations, I guess the text messages, the phone calls to your parents, what it was like.
It's been good so far. I'm just really happy that I was able to achieve this great feat, and I'm just elated. Yeah.
Are you, by the way, are you looking forward to probably the Carifta Games or something like that? Have you been called up? Have you been, given any notice that you probably will be competing in the Carifta Games?
No, maybe next year. Not at the moment.
Not at the moment, okay. But you're not daunted by that, right? What's about the pen relays?
Yes, I will be attending the pen relays. Yeah.
Wow, that's great, Nick. So we should have some fascination there, some opportunity for our boys to compete at the pen relays.
Yes, yes. Cache and a team of boys will be coming to the United States on Monday, and they will be representing in the at the pen relays. We expect great things from them. They have our 100% support. You have to remember that, as I told you, you have some boys that's gonna be doing national duties, which is Ethan Sam, Emilio Blanco, Cameron Matlin, and Timothy Greenwich. Those guys are gonna do national duties. So we also had to have the other pilots piloting and making a name for themselves as well as for the school, as well as representing country too, which will be Kaj Stephen, Nathan Hille, Josh Thomas, Antoine Aline, Jaden Pay, Jalen St. Louis, and Russian Daniels.
So
They'll be traveling to.
That's a B team. That's a B team that's heading there. So
yeah, more or less
you had a lot of guys in reserves then.
Yeah, more or less a B team. So they will be representing at the pen relays. The first team we had in mind was Ethan Sam and Blanco, but based on the character, we have to send a piloting team. So.
Okay, and will they be in the large or small schools?
Say that again.
Are they participating in large schools, small schools? In which category?
Large school.
Oh, large school because of the population of the GBSS.
Yeah.
Wow. Yes, so quite a bit. I see Kellon is saying I see a nice rivalry developing between Stephen from GBSS and Philip from SAS in years to come. It will be excellent for the sport.
Yes.
Folks, before you go, I just want to hit one video there, and we get some comments, and then we'll try to wrap up. Stay tuned there.
And here they go, clean break. Can this record go? 51.64. Let's see. Stevens out early. He's motoring, he's moving. Kaj Stevens in the middle of your track has already broken one of the records set by Kirani James. And here he goes. Just about 200 meters remaining. Kaj Stephen with a lead. Here he is. Does he have what it takes to bring it home? The countdown is on. Kaj Stephen, look at him. He is moving. There's no challenge here for Stevens. It's Stevens against the clock. He's grimacing, he's fighting. He's really moving fast. Kaj Stephen. And let's see. He's going for the record. He's going for the record of 51.64. We really need to keep our eyes on the results, because he just may be that he has gotten it.
As we see him coming up the home stretch, he's all alone, unchallenged. He's accelerating while the others are trying to catch up. He's hanging on, he's pushing, record on his mind. Did he manage to eclipse that record? A strong running date from Kaj Stevens. Let's wait for the time.
52.02. Kaj Stephen, the winner of the boys sub-junior 400 meters. What a talent. But what I want us to remember, I'll let you know shortly. I want you to go to Sherry. Let's go.
Yeah. All right. So Sherry will take you another time, but look at that. 52.02. But look at, while Kaj was, motoring, as they said, all alone, there was a battle for second and third between Philip and Hilaire, St. David's Catholic Secondary School, and SAS for the second and third. And then we also had Philip Mitchell of St. Andrew's Anglican Secondary School. So that batch in the back there, they were battling, right? And it was a very, I think, if you look in, and that's me, I sometimes look at the entire field. Yes, Kaj was in front. I'm looking at certain things, but I also looking at what's happening behind him. And to me, that was where I enjoyed that competition in the back there. 53.83 and 54.06. Samson Philip of St. David's Catholic Secondary School and Kidon Hilaire of SAS. Congratulations, Kaj, but that to me in the back there was very intriguing. Kaj, you were all alone. Tell me about that race.
Oh, well,
Yeah, tell me about that race.
For me, it was just proper execution. According to Mr. Lee Coffey, my coach, he told me I just had to have an aggressive start, flow down the backstretch, and just come home with the win.
All right. Whoa. One of the things, Ms. Williams, we have to encourage, and I'm saying that for someone who has been involved in sports for the better part of 35 or so years, right? Is that we have to find ways how we can help our young athletes. I have been around the Kirani James and Rondell Bartholomew. In fact, even before that, Hazeland and Aline Francique, and traveling with those athletes all over the world, and all these sort of things. And one of the things I can always say about our athletes is that they, especially our Grenadian athletes, they are always prepared to say something, to speak. And one of the reasons Kaj is on is because I reached out to his parents, and they gladly accepted the invitation for Kaj to speak. And I mean, Kaj is only 13. You don't really find students and athletes or youngsters at that age that want to talk and express themselves. But I think we have to start giving them that opportunity, being relaxed. And one of the things, by the way, I don't do, and I'm trying to ensure that our broadcasters don't do, it may look sexy and appealing and whatever, do not try to push a microphone and interview our athletes as soon as a race is completed, especially when they are out of breath. It is not good for the athletes. It's not good for the broadcast, everything like that. So give them the opportunity to decompose. And that's why we have a mix zone, right? That's why you have an opportunity for them to walk through the mix zone, then go to the microphone. Do not try to do that, right? But I'm going back to the point of giving those athletes this opportunity to sit down, be relaxed, to express themselves, look at tapes, and look at their performances, speak to them. It could be a discussion. Speak to them about what it is they saw there that they believe they can do better. Look at the first 100 meters and probably a 400. Tell me what it is you are doing. What is in your mind? Because at that time they can, reflect, then think about it, so that in the future, when they have an opportunity to speak, they are more confident, they are more fluent, they are more relaxed, and things like that. I used to be chatting with the Kirani, doing the mock interviews with the Kirani and Rondell and things like that. So not anything to bring out live or anything like that. So just giving them that opportunity. The late Harvey Glance gave me that opportunity to speak to them and to do these mock interviews and things like that, which helped them. When Kirani started, he wasn't the best. He wasn't the most fluent. When Aline Francis started, he wasn't also. But after a period of time, and by doing it and doing it and doing it, they are so confident. Look, Christina Buckles, the daughter of Hazel and Regis, who probably will be speaking about in the next probably year or so, just as I'll be speaking to Kaj Stephen, because she is doing very good now in high school, from middle school to high school, right? She's doing good. At the age of 11, 12, she was on our program. She was speaking, and she was speaking with confidence, and things like that. Give them that opportunity. So I want to congratulate you, Kashi. I want to congratulate your mom and your dad as well for supporting you, your coaches as well, and for supporting you. And I want to encourage you to remain focused. You have a lot in sight. You have a lot of things that you aim into. You have a lot of achievements. It's just the start, as I will say, right? And you have some mentors, I believe, that I think once you stick with it, when you stick with the program, you talk about your coaches, the support you have in at home and things like that. So I am certain you're destined for greatness. As they say, great is the GBSS. I am certain that will be with you. Some parting words from you, Coach Williams and Coach Benjamin.
But I'll take the opportunity to thank all our supporters, all our well-wishers from near and far. The GBSS diaspora is spread wide around the world. And to all the new fans that we have captured on that day. Hills and Valleys was on board with us. Extend our thanks to them too. And the parents of all the athletes, the officials of the games. I just want to say thanks to everybody for being there and being part of this tremendous victory for us. And as I say in closing, always, great is the GBSS.
Yeah.
Yeah, Miss Williams.
Miss Williams will scold you at the end. Don't worry.
Yeah, I mean, we know the father above is over, but he always said he had great kings. He had great kings. And we are part, great men.
No, Miss Williams.
So I just want to say thanks to principal and staff of the St. David's Catholic Secondary School, believing in the athletes, for all the support, the parents who provided breakfast for the athletes for the 2 weeks before Intercol. We had early morning training. The parents prepared the breakfast. School didn't have to spend a cent. We thank the parents. We thank the community of St. David's, very supportive. We thank our groundsman, Mr. Theo Sylvester, Always, the ground is always prepared and marked. We're so happy to have him. Thank the coaches, Mr. Paul Philip and his team. Thank past students. I still think they can do so much more. And I think Mr. Bascom, maybe you and Sylvan will have to run a Spikes drive. Spikes are expensive in Grenada. $285 for Spikes. Somebody this can't afford. So I think we really want to thank the past people who are listening. I think you could please try and get Spikes for the school and sneakers, especially for country schools and schools like us. We want to thank everybody, and of course, we must thank the Almighty because we prayed for this for quite a while. You know, we cannot do it on our own, and we thank for all those who send, like Hazel and the others who send a motivational speech for the athletes. We are very happy. As I said, it was a tough win. Glad we won. So 28 win. So heading into 21 with God's grace and God's guidance. And the whole of the supporters that came out in the stadium, those who are beating the drum, making noise, encouraging the athletes, to thank everyone. And a big thank you to GAPS for yet another successful Intercol meet. And to you, Mr. Bascom, thanks for having me. And thanks for what you're doing for sports in Grenada. Thank you. Everybody has a part to play, and I think you're doing a good job. Thank you all.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yes, certainly, Michael. If I may add something in here, um, for both schools, you guys certainly have to put in my maroon, to the heart. Magdalene College, because I want you guys to do enjoy this year's win, because it seems like I have to come back and coach. And so please enjoy this year's win, because next year it may not happen. You know, so
Really?
I might have to leave Canada and do come back and take my coaching skills to the next level, and then to win another high school championship outside of Canada. I do have 7 boys and 5 girls out here already, but I think I need to take it across the waters. And so please enjoy, the win for this year, but next year it ain't gonna be that way.
I
So
know.
Love the
I think
time.
I hope Mr. Carl not watching.
you know yeah, we didn't say Crown City for nothing. There's Crown City for a reason, right? So definitely, certainly. But
Thank you.
congrats again. You guys did well.
Thank you very much. And
Thanks, bro.
Miss Stephen is also saying, as part of Carifta Camp, the start of the day, we have development sessions and engagement with the media is one of those sessions. Yes, so certainly.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, that's good. But I'm still saying that we have to ensure that we have to do it properly. That I hate to see that athletes are being interviewed or trying to interview athletes at the finish line out of breath. That's a no-no.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah,
no.
yeah,
Certainly.
it's
Yeah.
a no-no. They do it other places, but they are professional athletes, so they
Professionals. Yeah.
you probably offer them a bottle of water or something, and you don't try to interview them. There's nothing you're bringing out of them at that time, right? Except out of breath. No, they're
Yeah.
tired. Give them the rest and let them compose themselves to speak, right?
Yeah.
That's simple. Yeah.
Certainly.
All right. Thank you very much, Coach Benjamin and Coach Williams. And always a pleasure having you. Thank you very much.
Thanks
Right.
for having me. Thanks
All
for
right.
having
Thanks
me.
for having us, bro.
All right then. Thank you then.
All right.
All right then. So then we will wrap up with our final piece here. Rudian, let me just
So,
get it going. Get me going. Get it going.
Here they go. Clean break. Making up the early saga. Let's see. It's the GBSS. It's really noisy here. Smooth handover. GBSS. SAS. It's GBSS. SAS. Here comes presentation by the college. But it's GBSS. Moving. Pulling away. Handover made. Nice transition. SAS with a little slip up there. But keep your eyes on the track. Keep your eyes focused. It's GBSS. Round in the bend. They're in the lead. Here goes Kaj Stephen. He has it in his hands. Will the record go again? Let's see. He's speeding down. He's coming down. It's going. It's going. It's gone. GBSS pulling out a clinical performance. A number of slip-up for the St. Andrews Anglican Secondary. Not really as smooth as you wanted, but trust me, GBSS did the business.
GBSS doing the business. Winning that one smartly there. 4x100 meters. Sub-junior boys goes to the Grenada Boys Secondary School. SAS will have to settle for second place and PBC in third. And the celebration continues. 45.02 seconds.
Tell you what, they have just broken their own record that they set earlier in the preliminaries. GBSS 45.02, new record for them.
Congratulations to the GBSS. It's a new record. 4x100 meter relay sub-junior boys. Look at it. Final handover. Flawless take. And he's motoring down the track. Motoring. Mitchell is chasing, but there is no way he's going to catch Stephen. And he just blazed the track and blew them all away.
Right. Kaj is still with us, but Kaj, that was your final event, I think, for the day and for competition. So what frame of mind were you in? Because I'm certain with the 200, the 400, all of that. What frame of mind were you in for that? And knowing for a fact that, one, you already established the record in the prelims, right? And this is a 4x1. Anything could happen. What was that frame of mind?
It was just to focus and to get the baton around. So my team and I decided that, that we should, stay focused, stay humble, and do what you do best and win.
Okay. And just out of the realm, I want to ask you, do you know anything about why they came and gave you that wreath?
I have no idea, no.
Okay. All right. Well,
Just happened.
Okay, it just happened. I have an idea why, but it was part of the bantering from since last year. I know SAS has the read for GBSS, and now GBSS returning it to SAS. So that was the RIP. But I know a lot of folks didn't understand, but that was part of the bantering. Yeah. Your teacher Liz is saying that about you got the genes and encouragement because your dad was an icon in St. Lucia. Seriously though, his early success were under the coaches at First Choice Junior, Ramon Charles and Jade Oliver. You remember those coaches?
Yeah.
Yeah, Ramon Charles and Jade Oliver. And Rudy, and while we have Kaj Stephen here, one of the things I want to talk about before he disappears though, is that Kaj actually came from a private primary school. And we have spoken about giving those folks that opportunity. And you've seen what is happening there. Same as Sean Lambert many years ago. Sean Lambert was one of our fast sprinters. In fact, he held the sprint record, up until probably a year or two ago when Nazio John broke the record, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he actually came from a private primary school, then into the GBSS, and I am certain probably Kaj will probably heard about the Sean Lambert and others and things like that. So, but I'm saying again that the opportunity, and it's a continuing debate about whether or not we should incorporate the private primary school into the national primary school athletics, giving them more opportunities to participate, as the case with Kaj Stephen, who probably folks may not have known about because the private primary school have their sports meet, but he would have been shining there, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All alone, right? But he would have been able to compete among all the others of his age group, and we would have recognized him and appreciate that from since then. Rudian?
It's a sticky one. Because
Yeah.
I have to, we have to deal with it out here. Elementary school do not have the private elementary schools either. Um, the Catholic have their own, the public have their own. Um, so that's why, because I'm in it and I get to understand, how it is out here. It's kind of tricky. However, um, I think it would be nice to see all the schools and then compete. Just how many private school is there that they cannot be a part of the elementary school meet. So
But in a case where in a Grenada setting
yeah,
where we have limited,
that's what I was saying. Limited
yeah,
schools, right? Yeah, yeah.
schools in the context,
Limited schools. Yeah, in
and
the context, it should be. Yeah,
and in the context of developing and harnessing our athletes,
young people. Yeah,
yeah,
our
young
young people.
people,
Yeah,
why not give them that opportunity? And and
yeah.
the debate, it is a continued debate, but
It is.
as
It
you
is.
say,
Yeah,
there are merits on all sides, and I'm certain Kaje would, and there were probably others like Kaje who
Yeah.
probably do well. He's saying yes, so I certainly
but
knows, you know.
but here's the other thing. As being private, and that's what you're saying and that's where it comes in too because no, the private, let's just say at there is some merit to it. It's a hard one, Michael. Because I don't know if all the private school is located in only in St. George's only. That will make, I don't know if there's any other private school outside of the St. George's area. Would that make that team stronger than most others due to that? I don't know if so it is a tough one. I mean,
Yeah.
look at St. Andrews. St. Andrews have the most elementary school. So certainly, in the benefit definitely come for them in St. Andrews, seeing what they have done, over the years. But I think everyone should have an opportunity, especially for young people. And if we want to build our program in Grenada, we are all one. We are not separate in any way. We are just one. So I think it should be just one thing. Let them get involved to some degree.
Okay.
Yeah,
You see, Mr. Simmons is saying they should be given the
Simmons.
opportunity to
Yeah,
participate. Let's have a national
yeah,
discussion on that, right?
yeah. And even
Yeah,
though they have to do it on their own, meaning that they're coming in on their own, the schools could come in on their own merit, perform on their own, and not be a part of the St. George's or the St. Andrews, wherever Paris and perhaps wherever they private from, they could just compete on their own. Um, that's another opportunity, right? So
okay, yeah. And Chenny saying this feels like a penalty on persons who choose to invest in their children. My
yeah,
kids all went to private primary schools because we as parents wanted the best for
the
them.
best. Yeah,
Um, yeah, and
yeah.
then Shane is saying, isn't unionism the issue for this? I think it has something to do with that, but we are
It's
looking,
a lot. It's a
yeah,
lot. Yeah,
we are looking at the development aspect of our
aspect of it.
kids,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
especially at a time where we need to harness the potential of
The
athletes like
potential of
Kashi and
athletes.
others,
Yeah,
right? I think we have to look at what we think is best. Um,
yeah.
my only problem would be, Rudian, is that when the likes of Kashi and others get into the Form 5, the senior, and moved out, hopefully by then we will have a program in place that can continue to harness their talents, and we don't see something
Let
like
me ask.
the
Let
township.
me ask Kaj a question. What is next for you for the rest of the year?
Well,
Vincent Tide games. Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah, that's it.
And then see that there goes there goes the problem, right? This is April, and one more meet, and the season is done. Back again till
well,
October.
except for pen
Yeah,
relays, except for
yeah.
pen.
Except the pen relay. So that could also be an issue right there. Again, there is nothing after that. So it would be nice to see. Listen, the age group. everything is a cost, and I don't want to compare. What happened out here in Toronto. Out here had the problems just as the same as everywhere else. They have the issues, but there is divisional championships. Every division have their own championships, right? It would be something to look into for the future for Grenada. Have divisional championships. So you're looking at the sub junior and maybe the seniors combined together, and maybe the juniors and something else combined together, where you have, they're still going to continue competing up until maybe July, because there is literally nothing after that. So certainly, that's it, and that is just my whole thing. When I look at a certain aspect, it just you're done. Your season is done. Two more season, two more meets for you, and there goes that. But not only for you, for many others. Some of them is just the character games, and that's it. Next week, and they're done.
All right.
So
So
it would be nice to see. Yeah.
okay, so Lee is saying that they may attend champs in Trinidad, so that might be
Okay.
something that they may look
Yeah.
forward to.
They
So
look for another meet. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that they may
Yeah. So,
attend.
yeah.
Right. So we'll take some comments there, and then we'll wrap up. The your boy Lincoln is saying, well, he's telling to Minister Simmons should take the coaching at task, the best chance of winning 2026. But Lincoln, if your good friend Rudy is planning to coach McDonald College, who would you get to coach the University of GBSS? Yeah. So Lynch is saying, Stefan Strawn, PBC, shot put goal, discus, bronze, Rihanna Thomas, Anakin High School, silver, Aiden Williams, GBSS, shot put, silver, all came from first choice.
Private. Yeah.
Yeah, there are others from other private schools who did quite well. So she is just
Yeah.
highlighting
Highlighting that. Yeah.
first choice private primary school and their performances. There may be others from St. Mary's and others like that. But I guess as much, including Kashi, look, they have had
I
outstanding
think they should be,
performances.
like I said, I think those schools individually should be invited to the games, to the primary school championship. I think so.
Mhm.
This is
Um,
my take.
Mike,
Yep.
maybe we can introduce Grenada Youth Games. Probably
Yep.
something for the Sports
Future
Council to look at. And
to look at.
Toro says MDC will be champs in 2060. 60. All right. You and your boy will tussle that
We have to toss that out. Michael, Chenny mentioned something earlier on that I wanted to mention. I never get a chance to. And he may talk about the having the prelims prior to the games, and I think that's a challenge. But however, when I look at the 4x4, I think that they should have a prelims for on day one, and then have 8 teams in the finals on day two.
Well,
Both.
looking
I,
at
I,
I think there were based on the program, there was prelims scheduled for the 4x4, but then I don't know for what reason it was scrapped
it
because
didn't happen. Okay.
I
Okay.
heard they said
Yeah.
after that the 4x4 will be an all final. But
Oh
when you
yeah,
look at the
it should
program,
be.
yeah,
It, it should, yeah.
there was
Especially on the men's side, big time.
Mhm,
It was
mhm,
and they should have someone controlling it down there.
mhm.
And there was no control, and it was a mess. I'm just looking at it, the bouncing around and kids running all the way to lane 8 to give a baton and those type of things. But I think it should definitely be,
Let me
um,
let
yeah,
me use the opportunity again to finally congratulate Kaj Stephen for being
yeah,
on
definitely,
the program.
yeah.
You stick around. You would have learned a lot. I'm telling you, Kaj, because you would have heard from the coaches. You would have heard from the fans. I mean, there's so many comments there. If you get a chance, you can probably read some of them because they all throw in congratulations to you. One of the things I like about you, Kaj, is your style of running to the end.
To the end, yes.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was going to say that. I was
Even
going to say that.
without,
He finished
even
his race.
without, even without
Yeah,
being challenged, right?
yeah. He finished. He
Um,
finished his race.
he finishes
Yeah,
his race.
finished his
No
race, and
showboating.
that's certainly no
Yeah,
showboating, no turning
yeah.
back, no looking back, and
Never
that
mind.
surely
Yeah, I
will
think.
make you a
Yeah,
great athlete in the future.
Yeah.
Just finish the race. Our coach once told me, a coach from Grenada once told me, run 110 meters.
Mhm.
Sometimes people just run the 90 and they say they slow down. They say, tell me to run 110.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so you run past the line, run
Yeah.
past the line. So continue doing this because a lot of races lost right on the line
Like,
because
yeah.
somebody just decided to shut down and somebody passed them.
Yeah.
So listen, your form, your everything that you're doing so far, just keep it up. Keep up the good work. You're under good management. You have your parents. You have a team. You do have a team around you that's supporting you, which is what you want. Continue what you're doing. The future is bright for you. At your age, when I was my age, my first spikes, everywhere I go, I had a spikes in my bag. Everywhere I go. In Grenada, everywhere I go. Anytime somebody want to challenge me, I say, let's go. I'm ready. I was always ready because track and field was always in me. And certainly that's why I put the hard work in. I go as far as the Olympic Games, and I'm very proud of what I've done. So certainly keep it up. Know what you want. Know your future. And just like I eat, breathe, everything is track and field for me. I play other sport, but it was never as competitive to me as track and field. That's why I can coach now. I can give back my time. I want to say I'm a pretty good coach because success has come back for me. There's many kids get scholarship under me. Many athletes went to the Olympics under my program, and they are still there. You understand? So certainly, I would say keep up the good work, continue what you're doing, and certainly the future is bright for you.
Yeah. So
Thanks.
yeah. So Kaje, and my thing about it is that when you get the opportunity, if you can look back at some of the races, just in your spare time, you just want to relax, probably just look at it, enjoy those good moments. Certain because as a competitor,
You get,
you know,
yeah, you get
you don't
challenged as you
usually,
go. You get
yeah,
challenges as you go.
you
Yeah,
don't usually
yeah,
kind
yeah.
of remember some of those things unless you go
Some of
back
the good
and
moments, the
look at
good
it.
moments. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
look at it, hear the comments, even some of probably the interviews or whatever it is that you did and how you can polish on it, how you can better it. That's my advice to you. But I want to congratulate you. A lot of the folks are throwing congratulations to you.
Thank you so
I
much.
like I like your composure. I like your demeanor. Everything about that. I like your level of competition. And based on what you
Competition.
were saying, the folks who you are looking up to. And by the way, just one advice I want to give you: make sure that circle are people who you can rely on for advice and for support. You don't need any negativity in your life, young man. You don't need that. And you in a position where you can walk away from negativity, right? You can walk away from negativity. So ensure that that circle are people who you can rely on for support, including your parents, your teachers, your coaches, some of your peers, again, who are, and those who can give you that sort of support and push you. One of the things, in fact, I will share it with your parents. Some things that the late coach Glantz um, advised he had left with. That's Harvey Glantz, the late Harvey Glantz, Kirani's former coach, well, who passed away 2 years ago. He spoke back in 2014 to the athletes, and I'm telling you, it was a very inspiring speech he gave to our athletes, right? And every time I get the opportunity to share it with athletes, I want them to listen to it because I think this is what made Kirani what he is today, right? And Kirani will tell you that. Coach Glantz will iron a jeans pants if he gets the chance because he's conscious of his dress. He's conscious of, his so that's why you'll see how the way Kirani dress, for example, he dresses, right? He presents himself as a gentleman, right? And I'm certain that is the sort of people you want around you, right? You want people who will be able to encourage you and provide positivity to you, not the negativity, right? Because you have a lot in store for you. What I see in there is what we saw in Kirani James at your age. And I'm thinking that you are a star in the making. You are a star already, right? But great things ahead for you. So keep it up, young man. Thanks again
Same.
for staying with us. I know you're tired,
Okay.
but I'm certain it will be refreshing for you after you finish this program in terms of a world of suggestions and your mind hearing from past teachers, coaches, all these sort of things. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you
Stephen.
for having me as well.
You're welcome very much.
All right.
All right, yeah. Rudian, that was very exciting, and I'm saying I am very impressed with this gentleman. And there's something I saw in him that caused me to reach out to his parents, right? And they gladly accepted that. And I know what that can do for him. And something I want other parents, who might have looked on and have kids involved in sports. It does not have to be in track and field. It can be in football, it can be in cricket, netball, tennis, whatever it is like that. So give them that level of support and show and have an interest in your kids' future. When he participated in I think it was national champs. I don't know if you saw someone running on at the end of the race, one of the races, and hug him. It was his father, right? His father was there, well, probably close to the finish line, I know his father very well, and he ran on and hugged him. And if you look at his social media page, not just Character Games, but he has been talking about his son quite a while now, right? And giving him that exposure and that sort of support. And that's what we want to see with some of our parents, right? We have to support and listen, when they're wrong, you have to let them know they're wrong.
Yeah, tell them.
And don't go and glorify or give excuses for their being wrong, especially on social media, because by the way, I saw some things. I don't want to talk about it so much on this program because there's a whole issue regarding what happened, a particular incident, what happened. Privately, I spoke about it. I have my own, thing about that because I think the may probably could have handled differently. But what I'm disappointed with some parents, instead of throwing support and trying ways to, diffuse and, they igniting things, they igniting. And I think as parents, you have to be a little more, conscious. And as I would say to Ashe, and I would say to others, ensure that your circle, the people are, within your circle are people who you can rely on for advice, you can rely on for support, and not those who will try to pull you down, right? That's my advice for him. And that's my advice for all of them. Rudian, it has been inspiring. It has been, well, in terms of, I would say 2025 Intercol Championship, not just because of the GBSS, because, as much as GBSS winning, I was more intrigued with the level of competition, the competitiveness. And judging from what we have seen, I think 2026 could be another bumper year for track and field, because
no, definitely. And like I said, I see I see the young people. I see
man.
the
We said that for national
yeah,
champs.
I see the
We said that for
I'm
national
seeing the
champs.
young people. I've seen the like I said, I'm very impressed with. I know, I do know. I listen to what Coach William talk about on the female side on the senior level, but this is where you have to do your talent identifying in school. You definitely have to look at athletes and have a conversation with them and start training with them early, especially in the field events. You cannot win a championship without your field events. You cannot. It could never happen.
Yeah.
Um, somebody said you cannot win a long jump or even even triple jump without having sprinters, because you have to have the speed. So if you don't have the sprinters in your school, you cannot win those areas, right? That makes a big difference. So it's a lot of little things that can be done, but since it's at the level that I've never seen before in terms of schools being involved. I'm listening to a lot of the folks who speaking about getting coaches. So I really do hope those who speak about the things that they would like to see, they also try and support the school. Um, because you talk about certain things that that's going on a mental aspect, on a with the meal aspect, but yet you're not doing anything that if you can. So those who can help. Don't just talk about it and don't do anything. Help if you can help. So surely that I would like to see that continue doing it, and it's fun. It's school sports, and like again, something about the comments and stuff that you talk about with some of the parents and some of the people. It's school sport. They are students. It's a school sports. Listen, the school can easily come out and say this person is not running today. They have all the right to do that, and then so we get in all the stuff like that. They have the right to, and they have to have a level of academics for them to also compete. You can't be failing all the classes and think you're going to run. It don't work that way. You know what I mean? So it is school sports. So there's a lot in it, and it's a lot of pressure for the students. Like we talk about, a lot of them is going through things. Not only not having a meal. I've seen kids out here. They talk about where we at out here. Michael is the place for milk and honey. No, it's not, because there are people who are struggling, really struggling. There are kids out here who go to school. They don't have a meal. They don't know where it's coming from, but they wake up every day to go to school. So there is struggles everywhere. There is struggles everywhere. So we definitely have to look at the mental aspect about it with our young people, and not only for sports, but just in school in general. Because not only, yes, we like to see the school aspect with the sports aspect about it. We talk about the nutrition for the athletes, but they also go for the regular students too. They got to sit there for 6, 7 hours of the day with nothing to eat. And that's an everyday thing in Grenada, in Canada, in New York, in everywhere it is. You know what I mean? So certainly there has to be some change, and I really do hope those who are in charge, as the government, and those who in position to help and to do better and help if you can. Let's
Yeah,
not just talk about it. Let us help. Yeah,
well, and taking on the challenge from so folks, if you're listening, Miss Dennis Williams, and I think we try to do that every time.
yeah, with the
Yeah,
spikes and
yeah,
shoes, running
launch a
shoes and
campaign
spikes.
for spikes and running shoes, whatever it is that you can. If you can do it through your alma mater, your alumni, you know, let's see what we can do. I know there are
Certainly.
folks who every
Yeah,
year they try to do
we
something.
do. They are doing. Yeah,
Um, I think it was Minister Thomas, that's Delma Thomas, on the program last week. She said, we gave running shoes to some of the primary schools, but the kids
yeah.
are so not accustomed to it, and some
They're
of
not
them
accustomed to
found it,
running with
they
shoes.
found it
Yeah,
uncomfortable that they didn't run
uncomfortable.
with it.
Yep,
But if
yep.
we can give them it before, so that they can start
They,
training
they
and
could train with it. They
yeah.
know how to use it.
So
Yeah,
so now is a good time for us in the diaspora in particular. Well, it said so because she says it costs over probably $200 just for one in Grenada, right?
yeah.
So
To
if us
$280, which is
yeah,
crazy.
if
Yeah,
you go
crazy.
into one of those stores and you can just find one and you head into Grenada, please, see what you can do. You could drop it off to a school, things like that. So you can through your alumni association.
Alumni association.
Please
Yeah,
do, right?
yeah,
So that will be a shoes drive, right,
yeah.
for schools in Grenada. Thank you
Yeah.
very much, Rudian. Thank you to all the folks.
It's a pleasure.
Your good boy is giving you talk. He says GBSS Visitor 2026. The competition ain't tough enough for us.
Mr. Deputy, I truly give you and your GBSS the congrats. It was a great performance. There was a lot of hiccups. There's a lot of things that there's always somebody saying something, somebody saying this. And listen, I heard somebody saying, "Boy, there's a lot of teeth, boy. There's a lot of teeth in this thing." I said, "Lord, boy, there we go." Like, so sometimes
So,
there is but there is some hiccups. There is some
let
hiccups that
me
could have been fixed,
interject.
but
One of the things
yeah,
I was hoping that they would have used, well, so on day one, you remember we had a lot of rain on day one, right?
yeah,
So I reached out to the organizers to find out what's happening with the recall system, the sensor, because
yeah,
in 2016 I negotiated with the Chinese then for the recall sensor for the Grenada Invitational, and we got one, so I know it's there, right? But they said because of the rain, they didn't want to take the chance to run the cables, blah blah blah. So I said, okay, that's fine, and it was sort of thing. But I was hoping that on day two, at least, I would see it up because it was beautiful. Day three was wonderful because one of the things that we want to ensure is that in case of any major records, it could have been a world record, you never know, a world junior record or
and that's what
something
I'm saying.
that can
And
happen
if you don't have those
every day.
problems, I listen.
That's what I'm
I
saying.
said to you, and then
Yeah.
we've seen the Canadian 400-meter runner indoors broke the world record out of the University of Georgia. Didn't get the record because the starting blocks wasn't up to the world class standard.
So,
And that's as simple as
so
that. And he just didn't get it because of that.
So that
Those
was
are the
my
things you need to.
concern is
Yeah.
that, hey, they said yes, we have it ready to use it, but the first day because of the rain,
When
blah
yeah,
blah blah, we didn't get to
yeah,
use it, and I could understand, understandably, the water,
yeah,
etc.,
yeah. The
etc.
water and
Right?
everything. Yeah.
But I was
But
hoping that they would,
day two,
because
day
for
three,
some reason, if for some reason we had some phenomenal performances from our athletes, world junior mark, whatever it is like that, it would not have been recognized
no.
because we would not have the correct, whether there was any thing with problem with the starting, because you need to know your reaction time, all these sort of things would have taken into focus.
Consideration. Yep.
Right. Please, guys, we have the equipment. Please use the equipment.
And we want to have,
At
and
the
we want
level
to
of,
run a meet at the standard
yes, at the
and
level of
add to that
Intercol.
standard.
Yes.
So
At,
if you want to do it, it has to be across the board. It
yeah.
cannot just be one way.
At
It
the
has
level,
to be
there's no
across the board.
excuse. At the level
Yeah,
of Intercol, that should have
yeah,
been used.
yeah.
And I could understand the excuse for the opening period, the day, with all the rain, blah blah. But by the afternoon it was cleared up. Then day two and day three. But yeah. Thank you very much, folks. Greatest Talk Sports. Have a great weekend. Michael Bascom, Rudian, and Talk Sports followers. Chelly Joseph. Which bar are we linking up? Yeah, I know her. I know her. I know her. Yes, but Chelly is saying that he's somewhere in Moscow. But
Man, Chenny is
yes, but
all day,
we
Moscow.
still have
Yeah.
to we still have to decide on which bar we link it up with after Talk Sports. So
On
what
the
I'm
talk
thinking
sports,
is
yeah.
probably we'll host our program when we all in Grenada, and
Yeah, we have to make it
have our
plan.
Talk Sports,
Yeah,
and
talk
then
sports bar.
meet up in the Talk
Yeah,
Sports bar.
yeah.
Thank you very much, Rudy, and thank you very
That's
much.
a pleasure, man.
Yeah,
That
always
was.
a pleasure. Right. So, folks, that's all for this week. Wow, it was so enjoyable. I enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to another program. Come, by the way, I'm in New York, as you will see, right? I'm in New York. Nice being back after 3 months? Yeah, nice being back after 3 months. Um, so quite a bit we have spoken on. Next weekend, by the way, it's Carifta Games. We'll let you know because we're still looking at the program, whether or not we'll have our program schedule and what time, if we do have one. But we have Carifta Games next weekend, God's willing, right? So that's something we have to look forward to and support our athletes. That will be on the opening ceremony is scheduled for the 18th, which is Friday, and then the 19th, the 20th, and the 21st will be the Carifta Games. That's the Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, right? So if we don't, then we'll hopefully you'll join us on the 26th, which will be the following Saturday for our our program, right? Our next program. But we'll let you know during the week whether or not we do have a program for that. Thank you very much, all you folks, for being part of this weekend's program. And again, I want to thank Kaj Stephen. I also want to thank his parents, his Avenel and Gary Stephen, for accepting the invitation for Kaj to be on our program. He has been there for 2 hours and well-spoken young man. And I'm certain that, we'll hear a lot from him. We had him so relaxed. I know he's not fully, he's sort of under the weather, but I want to thank them for enjoying and being there. Okay. Toro says GBSS party will include performances from old boys like Dash, Val Adams, and Flying Turkey. And Samantha, hi Samantha. Good afternoon to you, Samantha. And thanks, Mr. Bascom. The Talk Sports was very informative today. Thank you very much. We'll chat. Folks, that's all for now. Yes, I'm host, but I am so refreshed because I thought it was an enjoyable program and I enjoyed speaking with the coaches and also to you fans and to Mr. Kaj Stephen. Thank you very much. Thank you, Marquis Griffith, my old schoolmate, the GBSS alma mater and good athlete from the GBSS. Thank you very much for all being part of the program. Thank you, one and all. Hope to see you either next weekend or the weekend following. We'll play it as it is. Our support to our boys and girls representing Grenada at the Junior Crifter Games in Trinidad and Tobago, and also to the GBSS who will be representing Grenada at the Pen Relays. We'll have other Grenadian athletes representing other schools, but the Pen Relays coming up as well. Thank you very much, folks. Until then, do have yourself